The recording now. We are
Sir,
resuming.
now the recording is in progress. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
So, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim again. For the sake of recording, my name is Dr. Hassan Nawaz Tahir. I am currently based as an assistant professor at Chakra University in Saudi Arabia. We are having this workshop. Why? Because we have been working on multiple meta-analysis through Nazish Masood Research, which was an initiative that I founded somewhere around 6 years ago. Purpose was that we had this lack of capacity. We require a lot of people to do meta-analysis because there is so much of healthcare data that is out there, and there is a big need, especially when it comes to Middle East. And therefore, one of the reasons of doing this workshop was to build capacity in researchers across Pakistan, so that later on those researchers can become part of the larger groups of meta-analysis that are available globally, and that we can connect the researchers who are taking this workshop, and we can connect them with the meta-analysis groups across the world. So that's the plan. And Dr. Zishan is leading an amazing group of multiple meta-analysis in that sense. He is himself a very, very bright person with a very bright future. So with that being said, we have this 4-day workshop, and the key purpose of this workshop is we'll keep it simple, we'll keep it crisp. The key purpose is that at the end, everyone in this workshop should be able to carry out their own systematic review, should be able to carry out their own meta-analysis. The workshop will be based on 4 days. We will have something like a step ladder pattern of understanding being built into the participants. First day will be more along the lines of introduction, along the lines of guidelines, along the lines of data collection forms, search strategy, right? And then as you move forward in day 2, day 3, and day 4. So day 2 will be more along the lines of trying to master as much as we can qualitative analysis when it comes to systematic review using tools like Rayyan, which is an online systematic review management tool. And then day 3 will be hardcore theory of meta-analysis. And day 4 will lead into hands-on. Day 4 will be completely hands-on. So even if you miss out on things, don't worry about it. We will cover a lot of things. We'll also repeat a lot of things in the coming days. Just hang on, sit tight. If you have any questions, you can ask those questions. At the end, you can raise your hand or post it in the chat box. That would be the modus operandi. With that being said, day 1, we start off with systematic reviews. So, what is a systematic review? So, we all know that we live in the age of evidence based medicine. In that evidence based medicine, we now have this huge cache of medical literature that is being developed. Now, a lot of primary studies are carried out across the globe, whether those primary studies are case report, case series, cross sectional cohort, case control, or you move up RCTs, or you move up and you're doing some secondary data analysis. Now, there is so much of data out there that needs to be collated. Why? Because that is a requirement of the medical practice. Why? Because if our practice is to be based on evidence, then that evidence needs to be summarized for the utility of healthcare professionals, for policymakers, for public health professionals, and also the public. So, with that being said, so what is a systematic review? In essence, a systematic review is something. It's a method of collating information, summarizing information that is out there on a specific discipline. So it's a scientific method of summarizing medical literature, and so that we can use it for developing guidelines. Publication is one aspect of it, but primarily for improving the overall practice, improving the overall body of science. This is something called as a hierarchy of evidence that you're seeing here. So when we talk about evidence in medical literature, as we move up in this hierarchy from editorials to case series to case control, cohort, and then RCTs and then systematic reviews and meta-analysis, the level of evidence, the quality of evidence increases. Why? Because systematic review and a meta-analysis is a collation of multiple different studies that have been either published, or even if it is gray literature, those are primary studies that have been conducted. And this is a cumulation of what has been done previously in primary studies. So a lot of the biases can be reduced. Therefore, the quality of evidence can be improved. We'll discuss risk of bias on day 2. There are multiple different type of reviews, not just the two that I've shown here, which is narrative review and systematic review. There are scoping reviews, and then there are some reviews of reviews. There are also reviews that are focused only on protocols. So numerous types, but for the sake of this workshop, because the primary purpose of this workshop is to build capacity at the end for meta-analysis for all the participants in this workshop. So for the sake of just this workshop, primarily we can divide reviews into either those reviews that are narrative in nature and those reviews that are systematic in nature. And then of those reviews that are systematic in nature, we can then do meta-analysis in some of them, not all of them. And in that, multiple factors are there. We'll discuss that on day 3. What are the factors that allow us, and primarily what is heterogeneity in this case? So a narrative review basically provides an overview of a topic. A narrative review also has an inherent bias to it. Why? Because it's not comprehensive. It has the researcher's bias, the reviewer's bias in it. And also, the quality of studies are mostly not looked up when we look at narrative reviews. And using narrative review here as a general umbrella term. But this is just an example of a narrative review, so reporting bias in medical literature narrative review, which basically is a researcher's opinion, but not just opinion, rather backed up by a literature review, but not a systematically constructed literature review. And we'll discuss what that is in upcoming slide. That brings us to systematic review. So what is a systematic review? What are the guidelines of the systematic review and meta-analysis? So when we look at systematic reviews, um, systematic reviews, systematic reviews are basically a systematic method, a scientific way of summarizing literature that is out there. Now, like everything in healthcare and everything in medical literature, systematic reviews, they require some sort of guideline. So the guideline that we have for systematic reviews is called as the Prisma guideline, the preferred reporting items of systematic reviews and meta-analysis. You can look up guidelines of other study designs as well. You can go to Equator Network, and we'll be sharing this presentation by day's end with all of you. So you can look up Equator Network. You can find guidelines for every study design that you can think of out there. So today's session, what we have done is that we'll look at Prisma. We'll also look at search strategy, and we'll try to take you guys through an introductory session of systematic review, so that this builds up into our day 2 and then day 3. So like I said, systematic review is a scientific investigation that focuses on specific questions, uses specific scientific methods to identify, select, and then assess, and then summarize the findings. Systematic reviews can be qualitative, they can be quantitative. When we do a quantitative analysis, we call it a meta-analysis. When we are only doing a qualitative analysis, we generally call it a systematic review. The key characteristics of systematic review are that it has a very focused research question. It has clearly stated title and objective. It has a comprehensive strategy for identification of relevant studies, whether those studies are published or unpublished. It has a very stringent, predefined inclusion criteria, exclusion criteria, and we'll look at all of these things through the lens of Prisma right after this. We also do a critical appraisal of studies, which we call as the risk of bias. Also, we do data extraction and systematic reviews using data extraction tools. We'll discuss those data extraction tools later on as well. And eventually, we end up with the analysis, which can be qualitative and quantitative. And then that results in development of a report, a manuscript, an article, uh, as you may sound fit. So whenever you are doing a systematic review, you have to go through certain key steps. And those steps are necessary for the systematic review to go on smoothly. Now, we will go through all of these steps through the 4 days. Uh, but like I said, our primary focus is that to master you guys in meta-analysis, because that's a big need that is there. And we will go through systematic reviews, but we'll try to focus primarily on meta-analysis, which is the last 2 days. When we are doing any systematic review, the first thing is to identify a research question or the research topic. If you are starting off for the first time doing a systematic review, what I recommend people is look up other systematic reviews that are already out there. As you identify those systematic reviews, then identify which one of those have not been published in the past 5 years. Try to do that review again and add new data into that review and try to publish that. That should be the first thing you do. But that's just an idea for the people who are starting off new. But if you are a seasoned researcher and you are doing systematic reviews again and again, then your research question should be based on some empirical idea that you have. For example, say you are working in the area of maternal and child health. So within maternal and child health, you can look up, say, for example, you're interested in infant mortality. Within infant mortality, you're interested in the interventions that can be done in the first 24 hours. So that could be your area. Within that area, you can then develop a systematic review topic. And we'll discuss how we can apply something called as the PCOS framework in that when we are going through the Prisma guideline. I hope all of you are able to come along with me and understand what I'm saying up till now. Um, for the sake of easiness, I will also try to underline what. So we are right now covering the research question and topic that is part of the first step of doing a systematic review. Once we have identified the topic, the area that we want to work on, the objective of our systematic review or the primary research question that we are going to address, the next thing is that we look at the databases. So, what are the databases that will be included for the systematic review? So, what are the databases that will be included as part of the search strategy? And within those databases, then you will build something called as search strategy. In that search strategy, we will use something called as Boolean operators. And then once you have gone through that search strategy, then you will take all the data that you have and bring it into some form of referencing software. This could be EndNote, this could be Mendeley, this could also be you can use a systematic review management software called as Rayyan. We'll discuss Rayyan in tomorrow's session in detail. We'll do a hands-on with Rayyan. This will really help you to speed up the systematic review. And also what Rayyan does is that Rayyan gives you this pictorial understanding of where you are in the systematic review. So it helps you to gauge at what step and level of systematic review you are on. You don't necessarily need to use Rayyan for systematic reviews. You can just use a referencing software as well. Furthermore, once you have all the data in this referencing software on in systematic review management software, then the next thing is that you start to screen for articles. So you look at the titles and you look at the abstracts and you screen. First, you remove the duplicates. Then, based on the inclusion and the exclusion criteria, you remove articles. And eventually, you come up with the final list of articles. For those final articles, you do a full text review. Up till this stage, you can deal with titles and abstracts. But beyond title and abstract, you have to look at full text reviews. You have to look at full text. When you have identified your full text, you need to extract data from those full text articles. Full text articles are basically articles that are either freely available or you can access them through any library, or you buy them online, or you request the researcher who has it, who was the primary author for it. And then you extract data using Google Forms. After that, you do something called as the risk of bias analysis. You then go for a qualitative analysis, and then there are different things that you can do in a qualitative analysis. We'll cover that in tomorrow's session. And then lastly, you go for a quantitative analysis, which we basically call a meta-analysis. In that, again, we'll cover it in day 3 and day 4. But like I said, not all reviews can be converted into meta-analysis. Um, so with that being said, these are the key steps of doing a systematic review, and it goes something like the arrow goes something like this. So from the research idea, research question, research topic, to the databases, to the search strategy, to the screening, then full text, then data extraction, then risk of bias, then qualitative analysis, and then finally meta-analysis. In this workshop, we will not focus on a lot on what how to write a manuscript, because the purpose of this workshop is to give you fundamentals of systematic reviews and meta-analysis, so that you can then later on use it and also become a part of the reviews that we are doing at Nazish Masood Research Center, where you can be part of paid reviews. So what you're seeing here is something called as a Prisma flow diagram. A Prisma flow diagram is basically something that is coming from the Prisma guidelines or the Prisma checklist, which is the standard guideline for doing systematic review. In that, as you look at this checklist, you will see that it has 4 components. First, you identify the articles, then you screen the articles, then you look at which articles are eligible or not, and then you finally include those articles in the review. This meticulous data keeping is very important if you want to publish your systematic review. If you do not have a record of when you did the search, so when you did the search, how many databases you got, what was the n number of articles you found, and you have to keep a record of it in an Excel sheet. We'll show how you can do that just now, where as we go through the search strategy. And then how you remove duplicates, how many duplicates were there. Secondly, how many records you screened, and in those screening methods, you used title and abstract. And then beyond that, how many full text articles did you assess? Of those, how many were found to be eligible? How many were excluded? What was the reason of exclusion of individual article? This is very important. Initially, I did reviews where I did not keep a tally and score of this, and this was something that the journal asked for later on, because this then becomes something called as an annexure of your article. So there is a lot of annexure material that you need to submit as you are publishing a systematic review and a meta-analysis. Why is that? And this was also one of the initial understandings that I had doing a systematic review meta-analysis. The journals want these detailed things. Why? Because anyone who wants to replicate your review can do so. Your methods should be so clear that anyone, and so detailed that anyone who wants to replicate your review can do so. The purpose of doing a review is that it can be repeated again. That's why I'm saying, if you are a novice researcher, a new researcher starting for the first time on a systematic review, is start off with a review and a meta-analysis that has been done previously, but not in the last 5 years. And repeat that as a starting point. Once you do your first meta-analysis, you publish it, you'll understand a lot of things. Secondly, the other thing in the Prisma flow diagram is of the studies included, what are the qualitative studies, and then how did you do the qualitative synthesis? So basically, how did you do the analysis, qualitative analysis, and then how did you do the meta-analysis? And how many studies were included in the meta-analysis? And mind you, when we are doing meta-analysis and if you're doing a subgroup analysis, this number of n changes with every subgroup analysis. So you don't have to worry about it, but you must understand what was the total number of studies that were taken into the overall meta-analysis. So this is the Prisma flow diagram. I've tried to discuss in detail what it is. If you have any questions, please post them in the chat box, and Dr. Zishan can then alert me of those questions. And that brings us to something called as a Prisma checklist. One of the reasons that on the very first day, and I know this might be a lot of information on first day that I'm giving out, but one of the reasons why we want to start you off with the Prisma flow diagram, with the Prisma checklist is right from the very beginning. Use standardized tools, standardized methods, so that you don't get in trouble at the time of publication, because then that becomes a big hurdle and a big problem. At times, reviews have to be repeated completely de novo. So that becomes very difficult. So that's why we are stressing on Prisma guidelines since day one. So we discussed the Prisma flow diagram. Now we are looking at the Prisma checklist. You can easily download the Prisma checklist by going on Equator. We will also share this presentation. You can also look at this presentation. So, so in the title of any systematic review, so identify the report as have they mentioned that it is a systematic review or not, or have they mentioned if it is a meta-analysis or not? In case you are doing a systematic review, in the title you need to mention that. That's one thing about the title. Then next is abstract. When you're writing the abstract, mostly it's a structured abstract when it comes to systematic review. And in in the structured abstract, there has to be a background or introduction. There has to be objectives. There have to be data sources. Clearly mention what were the data sources. Clearly mention what was the eligibility criteria. Who were the participants? What were the interventions? How were the study appraised? Did you do any risk of bias assessment or not as part of the systematic review? And then how was the data synthesized? Was the data synthesized qualitatively or quantitatively? What were the key results? What were the key limitations? What were the conclusions? What is the implication of your key findings? So, and also, whenever you're doing a systematic review, did you publish the protocol? Or if you have not published the protocol, did you register your protocol? You can easily register your protocol at Prospero, Prospero, Prospero. We will share the link of Prospero with you guys. Sorry, I'm bad at writing on the screen. So we'll share the link of Prospero with you guys in the WhatsApp group. One of the reasons of creating that WhatsApp group was that all of you, if you have any question, even beyond the session today, you can ask it in the WhatsApp group, and me and Dr. Zishan, we can answer as much as we possibly can. Where we get stuck, we'll let you know. Now, that's all about title and abstract when you're doing a systematic review. As you move along in the systematic review and you're writing the introduction, you need to clearly mention what is the rationale. So, and the rationale should clearly explain what is already known and what is the new thing that you're trying to discuss here, because you're going back to literature. So there is some gap in the literature that you are trying to fill. So that should be clearly mentioned. Similarly, when you're publishing, the objectives are very important. And in those objectives, the most important thing is this PICOS. And you will see this again and again. PICOS framework comes again and again when you look at systematic reviews. So you need to clearly mention who are the participants. For example, I'm looking at people who are going through kidney transplant. So what is the intervention? The transplant is the intervention. Who are the comparison group? The comparison group could be people who are on dialysis. What is the outcome that we are looking at? So, what is the key outcome? The key outcome could be survival for the 5 years post transplant. And what is the study design of the primary studies that we have included in the review? The study design could be RCTs. They could also be quasi experimental studies, studies which don't have randomization or controls. It depends. It could also, there are reviews that don't just focus on interventions, they also focus on diagnostic tools. So, diagnostic methods are also reviewed. So, yeah, we'll discuss that in day three. Similarly, what we look at when we are looking at the Prisma guideline, if you are doing any systematic review, you need to write a protocol or a proposal. That is very, very important. At the start, write the protocol. And when you're writing the protocol, get that protocol registered. Registered it where? Register it with, like I said, you can do it at Prospero. You can also register on Cochrane database. You can do all that. So Cochrane database, Prospero, anyone. You can, by the way, also register trials on similar databases. Prospero, you can register trials. I don't know. You can look up on Cochrane. Similarly, eligibility criteria. So eligibility criteria should be based on the objectives that you have shared. And in those objectives, the PICOs that you have mentioned, the participant, the intervention, the control, the outcome, and the study design, they should be clearly mentioned in the eligibility criteria. And you need to give characteristics like how many years have you included. For example, I'm taking a review from the year 2005 to 2024, past 20 years. What is the language that you are taking? What is the publication status? Are you only taking studies that are published, or are you also taking unpublished work? Are you only taking studies that are published in a specific database, or are you taking local journals as well? So those are some key considerations that you need to answer in the eligibility criteria. And you need to also give a rationale of why you're doing whatever that you're doing. Maybe you're taking local journals because there's just not enough literature out there of local research. So therefore, you want to focus on that. Similarly, what years you are considering, you need to give a rationale for why did you choose this year from this year. Similarly, the languages that you have taken are you need to give reason for what language you took. Similarly, information sources. So within a systematic review, when you're writing the protocol, you need to mention what is the information source. So what are the databases that you included in the systematic review? What was the search strategy that you included? We'll do a hands-on or search strategy right after this slide. And you guys can do it with me. And we'll do a very basic level search strategy. For our advanced level search strategy, I have identified an article that we will be training you guys for the meta-analysis. So the meta-analysis, we have identified a case study for your meta-analysis. We'll be looking at its search strategy so that you have a better understanding. Now, so the search strategy, how many databases were included? Did you put any limits? Did you use any search terms? Did you use any mesh terms? Did you use any Boolean operators? All those need to be mentioned. Similarly, study selection. State the process of selecting the studies. So how many studies were screened? How many were found to be eligible? Similarly, of those studies that were found to be eligible, if they were found to be not eligible, if they were excluded, what was the reason for exclusion? And you need to also share, if possible, share a table of the exclusion criteria. So these many studies were excluded for this reason, these studies were excluded for this reason, stuff like that. Similarly, data collection process, describe the method of data extraction. How was that data extracted? Did you use some form of forms? Did you use any method for collecting data? Was that collected independently or two or more people were involved in it? How did you take care of duplicates? Similarly, data items, list and define all the variables which were taken. You need to cover all the PICOs, so all the participants, intervention, control, outcome, and study design. You need to also mention the funding sources of individual primary studies, because that would really skew if you're dealing with pharmacological studies and you're dealing with and you're not mentioning the funding source. That's a big conflict of interest. With that being said, and this is not the complete Prisma checklist, by the way. There are multiple other things in the Prisma checklist. We'll cover the Prisma checklist after the search strategy. Today, the focus of today's presentation is to make a baseline for you for your systematic review journey. So when we are dealing with any systematic review and say we are building a search strategy, there are some things that we use. There are some tools that are at our disposal. One of the tool is called Boolean operators. Now, within Boolean operators, we have and, or, and not. And I'll give you an example what that means. Say I'm searching for infant mortality, and infant mortality, within infant mortality, I am searching for infant mortality plus the interventions for infant mortality in the first 24 hours of life, say, the first 24 hours. So if I'm using these two terms, one term is infant mortality and the other is interventions in the first 24 hours. Now, within those search terms and those interventions, now I'm just thinking out loudly. So when I say intervention, there can be a whole host of interventions. There can be 20 search terms here, right? Now, how do we join these search terms? Do we use and, do we use or, do we use not? Now, the simple answer to this is, say I want to use something called as a restrictive term, which is and. For example, I write infant mortality and and intervention in the first 24 hours. Now, and is a restrictive term. It means that I am telling the search database that whatever search that whatever results that you give me, it should have infant mortality and it should also have interventions. And it should also have, both should be there. But say I'm using something called as or. So if I say infant mortality or interventions, so what I'm doing here is I am basically telling the database that give me everything that is on infant mortality, or it is on the interventions. Even if it has infant mortality, but it doesn't have the interventions, still give it to me. Give this or this. So basically, or is an expanding term and is a restrictive term or is an expanding term. And then not is obviously it's an exclusion term. When I say not, say I say infant mortality or interventions in the first 24 hours, and then I say not systematic reviews. So I'm telling the database not to show me systematic reviews, not SR. Sorry for the pen, but I hope you understand what I'm trying to say. We'll do it hands-on right after this slide. Now, apart from Boolean operators, we use something called as mesh terms. So what are mesh terms? Say I search something called as myocardial infarction or heart failure, right? But say so we are four researchers. One of us writes myocardial infarction, another one of us writes myocardial ischemia, another one of us searches for heart failure, another one of us searches for heart stroke. Now, all these are separate terms, four terms: myocardial infarction, myocardial stroke, heart failure, and myocardial ischemia. But they are all under the umbrella of a similar search concept. They are all under a single search concept. And the concept is that there is ischemia of the heart muscle. Because of that, the heart muscle stops working. And then there is loss of the heart muscle as a result of it. That's basically the key concept here. Now, if I put one search term, this one, I might miss out on a lot of literature because some literature might be on heart stroke, some literature might be on heart failure, some literature might be on the other terms. But if I use mesh terms, a mesh term converts these search terms into a search concept, the overall concept. And what that does is that I do not leave out on any term. And I'll give you an example of that as we do the hands-on. But myocardial infarction was a very simple example of that. There is a comment. Yeah, ischemic heart disease is another term. So that can be a term. But then if you focus on terms, we will miss out on the overall search concept. Now, these are two key things: mesh terms, Boolean operators. There are other tools out there. I'll show what are the other tools out there as well. The key databases that we normally go for are PubMed, Ovid, and Medline. Ovid and Medline, at times people don't go for it because it contains paid material. Google Scholar is something that is freely available. Web of Science, again, you can access, but you need to have it's a restricted access. Similarly, Sinahil is another database. Science Direct is another database, and there are multiple other databases. Somewhere around 25 or so databases are out there that are generally used by researchers. Now, if you're working on artificial intelligence, a lot of times they use IEEE database. With that being said, and I'll just go to the hands-on for search strategy. Before I do, I just need to give this understanding. So what's the difference between PubMed, Medline, and Embase? So PubMed is basically it's an online version of all the journals that are indexed with the National Library of Medicine. Medicus is basically an indexation. It's a registry of all the journals that are indexed with the National Library of Medicine. All the journals that are indexed with the National Library of Medicine, they are available on PubMed. Obviously, not their full text are available, but at least their title or their abstract is definitely available. So then what is Medline? It's a primary component of PubMed, which is made available by the National Library for commercial suppliers. It's available by subscription, so you can access it using subscription and using something called as the Ovid. When people say Medline or Ovid, they basically mean the same thing. Ovid is basically the user interface of Medline. Now there is something else which is called as Embase. Embase is something that is developed by Elsevier. Elsevier is a big publisher of journals, and you can again access it using subscription through a number of interfaces. Uh, um, so you will hear these terms that they included Embase, they included Medline, they included PubMed. So those are some of the databases. I just needed to give a clarity, so I've shown it here. Now let's look at hands-on search strategy. I want all of you to go to PubMed. So what I'll just do is I will just copy this link, which is the PubMed link, and I'll put it in the chat box. All of you can open this link, pubmed.ncbi.nlm.nih. Now, do you understand why the PubMed link is so long? Because basically it's a repository of NLM. So what I'll just do is I'll just go here and let me just share the screen for the ease of use for all of you. I hope all of you can. Okay, so let me just go to PubMed. So say I am here on PubMed. One second. Just bring this down. Okay. And say I am on, let me just go to PubMed first for the sake of simplicity. So, right. This is basically PubMed. This is the interface you will see. Can all of you see my screen? Zishan, can you please confirm?
Yes, yes, sir.
Okay. So basically, this is the PubMed interface. We are roughly at around 1 hour right now. We have 2 hours for today. We have 2 hours every day. One of the reasons, like when we were developing this workshop, we had this discussion, should we have 3 hours or should we have 2 hours? One of the reasons why we kept it at 2 hours because we want you to have your interest. We'll have the session at a go one time, and then we'll have a whole day break, and then you can come back next day. So say this is PubMed. I am pretty sure a lot of you have seen this. And as you look at the PubMed interface, you can see something called as advanced search written here. And as you go down, you can see something called as mesh database written here. Now, for the sake of just to give you an understanding of what is mesh database, let me click on mesh database first. As I click on the mesh database, this opens up. And like I was showing in the presentation, we are going to search. I hope all of you can see the presentation, infant mortality and its interventions, right? And now I will not go into the details of intervention because these will be many, many search terms. But just for the sake of showing you how search is done, so we come here and we look at the mesh database. All of you can see the mesh database. If in case anyone cannot stop me so that I will stop showing it. Now, in this mesh database, what I'll do is I'll just search infant mortality. And as I search, look, it is giving me options itself. So I'll just click on infant mortality. Now, infant mortality is again, now this is a description of the concept. You need to first understand how mesh works. This is a mesh term, infant mortality. First, the mesh describes the concept. After that, it says, you know what, within this concept, you can focus on some key areas. For multiple terms, there might be multiple different key areas. For mesh terms, there are few key areas. But as you, for example, say I search myocardial infarction here. I'm searching myocardial infarction. Now it's saying, look, it's giving the whole concept necrosis of the myocardium caused by obstruction of blood flow to the heart, coronary circulation, right? So, and then there are other mesh terms like inferior wall, anterior wall, whatever. So, myocardial infarction, if I go into myocardial infarction, if I click on this, right? Now, look at this is a concept of myocardial infarction, right? And then these are so many things that I can add in the search builder. So I can add what is the diagnosis, drug therapy, economy, genetics, epidemiology, microbiology. I can look at pathophysiology, prevention control. I can look at surgery, therapy, whatever. And then as I go down, I can see that these are the terms that are included in this. Now, look, they are including infarction and then myocardial infarctions, they're including myocardial infarction. So, uh, uh, then cardiovascular stroke, and then myocardial infarct, myocardial infarct, heart attacks. So all those terms, these terms are included in this search concept. This is what I was discussing earlier on. And then they also show a tree. This is so when we are working at searches, we develop a search tree. And in this search tree, it shows, look, how the search tree goes of all the mesh terms in the disease category, in cardiovascular diseases, within cardiovascular, in the heart diseases, within the myocardial diseases, with myocardial ischemia, within myocardial ischemia, in myocardial infarction. These are the key things that are covered. So this just shows a search tree, the overall search tree. Now, how do you use mesh terms? I searched for myocardial infarction, right? And then within myocardial infarction, say I choose diagnosis, say I choose drug therapy, And for the sake of argument, I say prevention and control, right? And then I go here, which is add to search builder. I want all of you to do this with me. If all of you are doing this with me, you can raise your hand or you can just post in the chat box that all of you are following me. In case you are having a problem, you raise your hand again. We will guide you. Um, so I will add this in the search builder. I click here, add in the search builder. And look, as I added in the search builder, the builder itself gave or. So it's saying it will include all of this, right? And so all these mesh terms are added with OR. I can also add other things into the builder. But first, what I'll do is I'll just search PubMed with this. As I search PubMed with this, now this is a very comprehensive search of myocardial infarction, in which I know for a fact that everything within the concept of myocardial infarction is being taken by this search. And I also know that within that, I am focusing on three key areas. I'm focusing on drug therapy, I'm focusing on diagnosis, and I'm focusing on prevention and rehabilitation. Now, within that, I'm seeing I can then apply certain filters. I can apply filters for, say, since the year 2000, say, for the past 24 years. And I can give a rationale for applying this filter because this is the bulk of the filter. This is where we are seeing most of the literature coming in the past 24 years. And we also know that previous interventions might not be of value to us in the current day and age. Therefore, we are looking at intervention in the last 24 years. We can also apply filters. For example, we can only focus on clinical trials. If we want to go for meta-analysis, we can do that. But still, we are seeing somewhere around 4,000 results. We reduce the number of results, but still we are seeing a lot of results. And how our search strategy is being matured, I can just show you here in the advanced search. So if I go in advanced search, and as I clicked on how to go in advanced search. This is the advanced. You can see, you can also do that. I went into advanced search. As I go down, you can see what I've searched just now. So I searched, this is how I started. I started with this number 11, myocardial infarction, which was around 80,000 results. And then I went into specifically some key areas into that, and then that reduced it to 47,000. And then I further reduced it to somewhere around 4,000 by applying only for trials. So these were all the studies that had been done. This number 12 is all the studies since the year 2000 till 2024, and for the past 25 years. And this number 13 is all the studies that have been done that are trials basically. We can also download our search that we have done. Let me just download it to show you what. So I can just put it here in the desktop, and it basically gives us a CSV file. I'm going to open the CSV file in the Excel sheet. Um, As you see this Excel sheet, you can actually look at the query. So what I'll just do is I'll click here and I'll wrap text. So these are the search details. Apology for this. So all of you can see the search. So we started off with this. So the search that we did initially, what were the terms that were included? And these are the details of the search. I hope all of you can see this. In case you cannot, I can go back to this. So just coming here to
Yes,
give
sir.
you, sorry,
It is visual.
okay, it's visualized. Okay, so we discussed mesh terms, we discussed advanced search, we discussed how to use, how to download our search. What we can also do is, for example, say so this is one search, right? Let me open another one. And what I'll do here is I'll go again to PubMed and say I want to go to mesh again. And I initially did a search on myocardial infarction. Now I want to do a search on, say, um, coronary artery bypass. Coronary bypass, right? Basically, coronary artery bypass surgery, I want to search on that, right? So again, I see that this is a search term, and I can look at, say, the standards of this. I can look at the trends of this. So then what I'm trying to do is I'm doing now thinking of trying to do a review in which I'm looking at myocardial infarction and its association with search terms, just for the sake of simplicity doing that. So within coronary artery bypass, I chose trends, I chose standards, I chose methods, just to give you a nice insight. And I added to the search builder and I search PubMed with it. As I search PubMed with it, now see I'm getting how many results? I'm getting 12,000 results. And it's from 2017. So what I'll do is I'll bring it again to the year 2000. Since the year 2000, 2024, I get around 9,000 results. And here I want to focus on, say, clinical trials. So I get around 1,000 results. This is what I have. And now what I'll do is I'll go back again to advanced search. Now, as you go and you look at my advanced search, you are seeing that we started off with this. You can ignore all the search done 10 below because I was working on some other review. So those are like something that I was doing in the morning. So um, if you see, this is the myocardial infarction, number 11, that we started off with. And within this, we found these articles. These were the 4,000 articles within myocardial infarction that were basically articles that were done, that were clinical trials on myocardial infarction, and that had been done since the year 2000 till 2024, right? These are the filters. You can see them written here. Similarly, this is number 13, right? And similarly, this is clinical trials that are done on coronary artery bypass, and they have been done in since the year 2000 to 2024, and they're around 1300. And these are what? Number 16. So I now need to combine number 13 and number 16. How can I do that? I go in advanced search and I write hash number 13, and I now add it. When I add it, the advanced search, it is now giving me an option. So even though I did this whole search and it has its or, right? And it's also taking the mesh concept. Um, but what I also can now do is I can combine these two searches together. So what I'll do is I'll add this number 13 with an and, because I want both coronary artery bypass and also myocardial infarction clinical trials at their last search that I see with an and. So number 13. And then the last one was number 16. So I'll add hash 16, sorry, hash 16 here, and I'll add it, right? Now, this is the search term that I've created, right? And as I search it, this is what I get. I get only 41 results. So you see how focused I have become. And I can always go back to advanced search and I can always download this like we downloaded earlier. And we can look at, okay, so what is basically included in all these? So you see, this is why do we call this a search builder? Because you build the search. You build the search starting off with some idea. But again, like I said, you cannot do this search prior to identifying what your objective is. You need to be clear about your objective. And if you're starting off with your first systematic review and meta-analysis, what I would highly recommend is just repeat a systematic review or meta-analysis. That would give you a lot of insight. And there are multiple reviews and systematic reviews and meta-analysis in the area that you are trying to work on. Now, um, with that being said, let's go back to the presentation. So we have covered search strategy. Um, one sec. We have a
I
question.
have
How, how are you going to use mesh terms in advanced search strategy? You want me to repeat this again?
uh, yes, please, if you can do it. Um,
Okay. Okay, sure.
I'm little confused. Like after, like I know
Sure.
how to do all this mesh work and everything,
So,
but
so you see,
um,
when we are working with mesh terms, you can also work without mesh terms. Think of it like this. I will just put myocardial infarction here, right? And I'll add this term. But the problem is, this is now just a term. You understand? I cannot, and then I can say coronary artery bypass, right? And I can add both of these using and, right? And then I can search this as well. But the problem is, it is showing me 2000 results. Look, previously it was showing me 41 results. And it's also not that comprehensive. It's also not, it's only taking myocardial infarction. It might miss out on like cardiac stroke, cardiac ischemia, and all that. So the purpose of first going to mesh and then from mesh moving towards advanced search is that you have an idea. So for example, you can see here from starting from number 11, this was the initial search that we did. We searched myocardial infarction. Within myocardial infarction, we looked at drug therapy, infarction prevention, and diagnosis. But then we said, no, no, this is too much. We will include studies from 2000 till 2024. So we reduced it from 80,000 to 47,000. But we said, no, we need to further reduce it. We'll only focus on clinical trials that have been done on myocardial infarction since the year 2000 till 2024. And that brought our articles down to 47. Now, this was one search. We then went back to PubMed, again back to mesh, and we carried out another mesh term. This is one mesh, then we carried on another mesh term. In that, we took coronary artery bypass. And we did somewhere around, we found 12,000 articles on coronary artery bypass, its trends, its standards, and its methods, right? These are the three key things we are looking at coronary artery bypass. Within that, we said, no, these are too much. We need to reduce. So we looked at studies from the year 2000 till 2024, and the terms reduced to 9,000. Now remember, 14, 15, and 16 are just for coronary artery bypass. Similarly, 11, 12, and 13 are just for myocardial infarction. Okay, so these was we did that separately. Now, when we did that, we said, you know what? We have coronary artery bypass, the final search with the most recent studies from the year 2000 to 2024 and clinical trials in it, and there are around 1,300 articles. But we want to combine it with clinical trials done in on myocardial infarction and all of this in mesh. So what we did was we did this search number 17. In that we combined this 16 and this 13. How we combined it? We basically went in the advanced search and we wrote hash 13 and then we added it and then we said hash 16 and we used and. We could have used other or not, but we wanted to restrict it. Why? Because we have too many articles. And then we got the result that we got, which was this 17. And you can see, you can, why is it that on the day that you do it, you download the results. Otherwise, you can log in, you can create your own ID, and then from that you can do it. We have comments, sir. What's the significance of downloading search results? We download the search results because it is a safeguard. It is a proof that we have that on what day we did the search, what results we got. With a time log as well. So it has time log, the number of results that we got. This helps us a lot when we are developing the Prisma flow diagram. Okay, so with that being said, I'm going back to the presentation. In the interest of time, we have 45 minutes left for today. We need to finish today's session. The purpose of today's session primarily, like I said, is that we focus heavily on search strategy, and we are going to give you some idea. Now, this is a case study. This is a case study which is child and maternal benefits and risks of caseload midwifery. This is a systematic review and a meta-analysis that was published in the year 2021. We will replicate this meta-analysis in throughout these 4 days. I'm sharing the link of this review and meta-analysis with you in the chat box as well. Here you go. We'll share the presentation today as well in the WhatsApp group, and also Dr. Zishan will email it to you. So as you look at this child and maternal benefits and risk of caseload midwifery, basically, what is caseload midwifery? We all know that midwives are available at the time of delivery. They help in delivery. And my apology, a lot of my topics are going to be maternal child health because that is my area of interest, maternal child health and digital health. So I focus on digital health and AI application for MNCH. I also do some work with NCDs, but it's very, very small. So primarily my interest is this. So, child and maternal benefits and risks of caseload midwifery, a systematic review and meta-analysis. This is the title. I've shared the link. This is an open source article. You can look up this article. We will share all of these things. Let me just share it in the WhatsApp group as well. Someone said share in the WhatsApp group as well. Um, so this is the article I've shared in the WhatsApp group as well. So as you look at this study, I want you to today go and read this article. Read this article in depth. This will give you an idea on, and we will replicate this article during this workshop. This will really help us in understanding how to do a meta-analysis. And it won't take a lot of time. It will be very easy. So how did they do their search strategy? They have given it in their annexure. And this is their search strategy that they have given in their annexure. I'm sharing the Word file here. You can easily go to the link, download this from there. They went to Ovid and Medline, right? And they went here on 4th November 2024. And the number of results, the final results that they got was 1543 from Ovid, right? And what did they do? When you're reading this, the most important is the whatever that the researcher has highlighted, the last one, which is the search number 10. In the search number 10, they included search number 9, but they only limited it to Danish, English, Norwegian, or Swedish articles. Now, what was search number 9? Search number 9 was search number 7, but not 8. Number 8 was what? Number 8 was comments or editorial. So they wanted to exclude editorials and also any comments, any commentaries. And what was number 7? Number 7 included 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So let's look at 1. 1 was midwife. And don't worry if it is being written like this because they have directly taken it from Ovid. This MP is nothing more than an extension. Basically, MP means multi-purpose. It is used by Ovid. It is not used by PubMed. If I download it from PubMed, it will be written mesh, mesh, mesh. Don't worry about these things. Don't worry about the brackets. So the first term was that they took midwife, continuous midwifery or caseload midwifery. So continued midwifery, what they meant was a midwifery at the time of delivery, or caseload midwifery. Caseload midwifery meant midwife being available antenatal, perinatal, and postnatal. Before delivery, at the time of delivery, after delivery. Now, and then they applied another search term in which they only looked at midwifery done with teams, and then they looked at another search in which they looked at midwifery, and they looked at different models of midwifery, which was led model or managed model or groups, a model of group midwifery or one on. These are different types of midwifery. As you go into the details of midwifery, you'll understand what this is. You don't need to worry about it. But what I'm trying to share here is that they first did these individual searches, lead midwifery, primary care midwives, community midwives, they did all that. And then they combine all that in OVID. OVID Medline is a database similar to, you can, like you did in PubMed, you can go over there, you can search it. But like I said, you need a subscription for OVID and also for Medline. OVID is by this publisher. I forgot the name. So in the seventh search, they combine all of this. Like we combined two searches, we combined 13 and 16 together. But look, they have shown the whole detail. We first did this, then this, and we did this on this day. And the total number of results we got was this. So the final results that they took from here was 1500. Someone has put in the chat, ADJ means, I think it means additional or something. I don't know specifically the meta terms that are being used there. For example, the dollar sign, adjunct term, I think, or adjacent term. I don't know. Yeah, please look it up. I don't know the answer for that. Now, this was for OVID. Similarly, yeah, OVID is by Walters and Kluwer, which is a publisher. Yes, thank you. Similarly, Embase. Embase is again by another one. So in Embase, when they did, again, they used something similar to OVID, right? Because they start looking with the highlighted search. They included 10, but only limited it to Danish, English, Norwegian, and Swedish publications. And in 11, they did this. In 10, what they did was they limited to 9, Embase or Medline. In 9, they included 7 or 8. Basically, what you're seeing here is just a collation of search. The search terms are basically these. And these terms are being collated here in 7. And then of those, some are being excluded. Of those, some are being, they're focusing only on some languages. So this is what it basically means. I'm trying to make this, and this, by the way, this whole thing was published with the article. This is what I'm trying to tell you guys. You need to publish your search terms with your articles, but not in the article as an annexure. They also went to the Cochrane library. In the Cochrane, we'll cover Cochrane library tomorrow as well, but primarily we'll not do search on Cochrane, because for your first article, I'll not recommend it doing search on Cochrane, right? And in Cochrane, there are different tools that you can use. So in Cochrane, the number of final results that they got was 201. Now, Cochrane is a database that includes clinical trials and that also includes systematic reviews. So if you look at what is included in 11, it includes 10, does not include 10, it includes 7. What is 10? 10 is basically 8 or 9, which is conference abstracts or clinical trials or trial search. So they did not include clinical trials, they did not include conference abstracts, they included only 7. 7 includes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So what is 1? They included midwifery, continuous midwifery, caseload midwifery. Then they did another search on midwifery. And then they looked at different models of midwifery. And then they looked at lead. And you also see something here. The terms are basically being repeated across all databases. These 6 are repeated here. And then these 6 are repeated here. You see? So in OVID Medline, in Embase Medline, in Embase, and in Cochrane, all of them are repeated. And then they also went to Sinahil. In Sinahil, always, so every time I was going down, but now I'll start from up. Why? Because this is the one they have highlighted. This is the final one that they've included. The final, I'll look at the chat box just in a minute. Let me just complete this, because in the interest of time, we are left with half an hour to 40 minutes. So these are the number of articles that they got, around 19,000. And so uh, search 1, search 2, search 8, search 9, search 10, search 11 were included as or. So what was search 1? Search 1 here was midwifery, either continued or caseload, and then midwifery with a team, midwifery model, midwifery led. So, but then eventually in the last one, they included search 1 and then search 2, search 8, they left 3 4, because 8 included S3, S4, S5, S6, S7. So basically they combined all of that in S8. So basically they took everything. And apart from that, they also took lead maternity care, primary care midwife. I want you guys to go and try to replicate it on these databases, whichever one are accessible to you. They did not go to PubMed. You can apply this on PubMed, by the way, as well. All these search terms. Now let me just look at the chat box. How to publish search term with articles. You can just download the search terms from, do they automatically appear as mesh terms when we write keywords under the abstract? No, like I just showed you. So this is the advanced search. In the advanced search, this is the download option. As you click on download, you will get an Excel sheet. Uh, Here's the Excel sheet that I got. Here is the Excel sheet that I got. So it has all the terms, right? And it has all the filters. It also has all the results. It also has the time. It also has what we did previously after that. You can get similar from every database. Don't worry about it. Okay. How many search engines are free? So you can access Google Scholar very easily, PubMed, Medline, OID are not free, but you can go to Cochrane. You can access Cochrane. You can also access. There are others as well out there. For example, let me show you some of the databases. Let me just show you some of the databases. I hope I'm able to answer all the questions. How many of these search engines are free? Do we publish mesh terms as an annexure of the manuscript? Yes, they're published as an annexure of the manuscript, because you don't have um, enough space in the article. Even though they allow up to 4,500 words in a meta-analysis, but the meta-analysis itself becomes big, because meta-analysis are actually smaller than systematic reviews. The qualitative ones have a lot of words in them. So how will you deal with overlapping of articles using different search engines? Many articles, yes. So as articles are repeated, we will remove the duplicates. How we'll remove the duplicates? We will show it to you tomorrow. You can do it in Rayyan very easily. Or you can also do it in EndNote. I can show it in EndNote very easily. No problem. So we remove the duplicates. Not is also a restrictive term. Yes. Not is not just a restrictive term. Not is an exclusion term. And is a restrictive term. It is restricting you. Not basically excludes whatever that you're saying you're going to put not with it. How many databases are required for search strategy? Generally, what I've seen is 4 databases, 3 to 4 databases are required. I've seen articles where there were only 2 databases as well, and they were published. But if you want to go for journals that have Q1, Q2 journals, high impact factor journals, then you need to focus on 4 databases. So 4 databases at least. How can we do PubMed and Google? You can do it in PubMed and Google Scholar. In fact, you can get published as well. If you're doing a good meta-analysis just on PubMed and Google Scholar, you can get published, no worries. Yes. So let me go back to the presentation. Sorry, I'm rushing a bit, because in the interest of time, we have to move forward. Um, uh, my recommendation, go read this paper tonight in detail, look at its annexures, and then we can discuss things tomorrow. These are some online systematic review search tools. This is the OVID Search Builder, OVID Term Finder. All of this is in the in the presentation. You can look at there's a tool called as systematic review accelerators. I don't use all of them. I've shared them here, and you can also find all these tools on University of Manitoba. University of Manitoba, which is a Canadian university, it has given a lot of these. You can also look at Yale Mesh Analyzer. You can use a lot of these. I don't use a lot of these, but I've shared them here so that you have access to all of them and you can use them. So those were some of the terms, sir. I'm going back to the to the Prisma guideline, because I need to finish the Prisma guideline. Um, the number of search terms is not restricted. You can have as many search terms as you like, but you need to not miss out on search terms, because as your article goes to the journal, initially it goes through something called as a peer review. In the peer review, the subject matter expert, for example, if my article is on myocardial infarction and bypass, it will be sent to a subject matter expert, which could be a cardiac surgeon, or anyone which who is doing studies in cardiology or cardiac surgery. Now, they will review the article. After the peer review, then it will go for editorial review. So make sure that you don't miss out on important terms. Otherwise, it will be picked up in the peer review, and basically the whole article can be discarded. Or they can say, you know what, go back and do the search again. So that's literally starting off from, not like from scratch, but it has a lot of work that needs to be done. Now, risk of bias also. So I'm going back to the Prisma checklist. If you guys remember, we had started off Prisma flow diagram. And after the Prisma flow diagram, we went to the Prisma checklist. We looked at the title and abstract. We looked at different methods, method section. So protocol registration, eligibility, search. And then we went for a search strategy and a hands-on of search strategy. And then I also said, you know what, this is an article that we're going to replicate throughout this workshop. So I want all of you to read up on things in this article. And then I showed you some online systematic review tools for searches primarily. You can look these up later on. I personally don't use them. You can look these up. These are good tools given by University of Manitoba. Okay, so Zishan has said around 3,000 words, but it depends on the journal. That's the number of articles, number of words you can include in a systematic review. Then you have to calculate the risk of bias. Now, risk of bias has certain tools to it. If you are calculating a risk of bias, say for in which the primary studies are intervention studies. If the primary study is the intervention study, means that you're doing a systematic review of intervention study. Then the risk of bias tool that you use is the Cochrane risk of bias assessment tool. You can look up this tool. It's a very simple one-page tool. I will try to include this in tomorrow's session, but if it becomes difficult, I might not be able to, because we might not have enough time, because I want to do a hands off of Rayyan. Rayyan is a very good tool. It will really speed up your systematic reviews. So, but I will definitely try to go through the Cochrane risk of bias assessment tool. You can look up right now today what is the Cochrane risk of bias assessment tool. Dr. Zishan can also share the link of Cochrane risk of bias assessment tool. Now, you need to describe how you did the risk of bias assessment of individual studies. And then you need to look at, so whether this was done at the study level or the outcome level. So risk of bias needs to be given in detail. You need to also share the table of the risk of bias in case that table is very big, because you have many studies included. Then what you do is that you add it in the annexure, the risk of bias assessment tool. Similarly, risk of bias assessment tool is nothing more than a checklist. It's a checklist that you apply on every article. Does the article apply blinding? Does the article apply randomization? Does the article apply any form of risk reduction technique? So that's this. And then you also describe what are the summary measures. So are you looking at risk ratios or relative risk? Or are you looking at difference of mean, so mean difference? And these are basically quantitative ones that we look at when we are doing meta-analysis. as you go through this article that I've shared with you to read up, we will be using this article throughout the 4 days. Read up this article, you will see what they have used. Have they used risk ratios or difference of mean? Similarly, how was the synthesis of the results? So, how was the data handled? How were the results combined? Did they include measures of consistency? Example, did they include I square? So, how did they assess for heterogeneity? Consistency, when they mean basically, how did they assess for heterogeneity? So, did they include calculate I square or tau square? Or did they calculate the Cochrane Q? We will do all of these things on day 4 in hands-on. These are very easy. You can easily do them on RevMan. So I square, Cochrane Q, tau square, we'll do all that. Similarly, risk of bias across studies. Did you assess them? Uh, Basically, did you cumulate them? So did you look at the publication bias? How do you look at the publication bias? You look at something called as the funnel plot. Funnel plot is looks something like this. Sorry, my marker is a bit bad. Like a triangle. Think of it like an inverted funnel, like a triangle. Okay, we will discuss funnel plot in on which basically looks at the publication bias on day 4, which will be the hands-on day. Similarly, how did you report studies that were part of the trial? So again, risk of bias, looking at the risk of bias of studies, you can look at the individual risk of bias of studies using tools like the Cochrane tool for interventions. For non-intervention studies, you can look at the Newcastle-Ottawa scale. The Newcastle-Ottawa scale. Newcastle is a city in England. Ottawa is a city in Canada. Basically, like you think of it like the Vancouver style. Vancouver again is a city in Canada. For some reason, the Canadians were good at this work. So Newcastle-Ottawa scale is a scale that we use when we are trying to assess the risk of bias for non-intervention studies. For example, for observational studies like cohort study, case control study, cross-sectional study. Now, with that being said, we have around 20 minutes left. We have discussed how to clearly look at the risk of bias. We'll discuss risk of bias in detail tomorrow. I will try to go through the Cochrane risk of bias tool tomorrow. Also, the risk of bias can be assessed by looking at the publication bias and reporting bias, by looking at the funnel plot. Also, when we are doing the meta-analysis, we will develop something called as the forest plot. The forest plot also gives us an idea of the bias in studies because it shows whether or not the studies had a big sample size or a small sample size, and whether or not their effect size, how large was it, what was their confidence intervals. So all of them you can see when you're developing the forest plot. That's why meta-analysis are far more accurate than systematic reviews. And that's why meta-analysis get more published. Why? Because there is more accuracy to the data, more accuracy to the results that are being presented by the meta-analysis. Now, with that being said, um, was any additional analysis done? For example, did you do a subgroup analysis? By the way, the study that I've shared with you, it has done a subgroup analysis. We'll discuss what a subgroup analysis is on that day. Whether they did any meta-regression. Meta-regression is not done in the case study that we have shown to you. Meta-regression is basically when you adjust for confounders of the primary studies in the overall meta-analysis. So we'll not be doing this in this workshop. That is way beyond the scope of this workshop. In this workshop, we will be doing a meta-analysis, and we'll be going up to the level of a subgroup analysis. Sensitivity analysis, you can look up sensitivity analysis, what it is. We'll cover in detail sensitivity analysis on day 3. This study has done some sensitivity analysis. Sensitivity analysis is basically sometimes when we are looking at different type of summary measures. We might look at risk ratio, we might also look at difference of mean, we might look at odds ratio, we might look at others. other summary measures. So different sensitivities we can look up, but also there are other things that we can look up in sensitivity analysis. We'll try to cover all that in day 3. Also, when you are writing the results of the systematic review and the meta-analysis, I'm just trying to finish the Prisma checklist today. And I knew that this would be difficult because we had to do a hands-on of the search strategy. So in the results, you need to describe how the studies were selected. So how the studies were screened. Like I said in the flow diagram, you have to mention. Similarly, how the studies were assessed, eligibility, how they were included, how they were excluded, what were the reasons of exclusion at each stage. How did you exclude at the screening stage? How did you exclude at the eligibility stage? And you need to give a flow diagram. It is mandatory for Prisma flow diagram. Similarly, case study characteristics, I need to describe those characteristics in the light of PCOS, which is, like I said, participant, intervention, control, outcome, and study design. Similarly, risk of bias within studies, you need to briefly describe what was the total number of studies, what was the type of risk that was in those studies, whether you looked at risk at the outcome level, what was that? And then result of individual studies for all the outcome considered, benefits and harms. You also give summary data. So summary data basically give effect sizes and confidence interval in the form of a forest plot. So we will be doing all of that on day 4. Day 3 we'll cover this theoretically. Day 4 we'll cover this practically. Synthesis of the result, present the main results of the review. If the meta-analysis are done, include for each confidence interval. So it's very easy to look at confidence interval in the RevMan. RevMan software is a very good software, very easy to use, and we'll apply it when we do our studies. And then the risk of bias. You need to, across studies, you need to mention it. Across study risk of bias, you can, like I said, calculate it using publication bias, or also the Cochrane risk of bias tool, the qualitative assessment. Any additional analysis that you did, like meta regression. So all those things need to be included in the results part. Study selection, study characteristics. You need to include these things in the methods part. In the results, in the methods part, you need to describe, we'll look at this, we'll look at this, we'll look at this, we'll look at this in detail. Why? So that everyone can repeat, anyone can repeat your study. And then you need to describe what you found in the results. In methods, you describe what you did. In results, you describe what you found. And then the discussion is basically the main findings. You give its strength, you give its relevance to healthcare providers, relevance to policymakers, relevance to users, and users basically patients. Similarly, you give your limitations. So what are the limitations? Normally, when we write a discussion of a primary study, we compare our findings with that of studies that are done at other levels. But here, here in systematic reviews, we basically give a summary of evidence. We summarize the key findings in context of its application in health for healthcare providers, for users, for policymakers. Why? Because we cannot compare our findings with other studies because we are already collating all the studies. So we have already done that as part of the results. So we don't need to compare our findings with other studies. Limitation, you can give a brief account of what were the risks that have clouded your results. Remember, every study has a bias in it. Every study. You cannot have any study that doesn't have a bias. So you try to minimize the biases as much as you possibly can. And then conclusion, you give a small conclusion, 1 to 2 line. You have to clearly mention funding sources of the systematic review, and funding sources of the primary studies that were included in your systematic review. You can go to Equator Network, you can get the Prisma statement, you can get the Prisma guideline. The last part of today's session is, so and I know these sessions will be a bit heavy because we have 2 hours, so we are trying to cover everything in that. So up till now, we have covered Prisma guideline. Up till now, we have covered search strategy. That is what we have covered. We have covered registration of your systematic review and meta-analysis. Now we are going to look at how data is extracted. So what data should be extracted? By the way, this I got from the Cochrane handbook. I've given the link down here. This is the Cochrane handbook. The Cochrane handbook has this checklist of items that you can use for data extraction from the individual studies. Now, the final studies that we get, initially we start off with a systematic review, we do the search, we add the results that we get in the EndNote or in Rayyan. Tomorrow we will work with Rayyan. We'll put all these studies in Rayyan. We'll also work with EndNote and we'll remove the duplicates. As we go to the final result, final articles that we include in the qualitative analysis, uh, we then need to extract data from those studies, those full text. So what are the key things you need to extract? Study ID, study report, eligibility criteria, methods, source design, sequence, generation, allocation, concealment, blinding, participants, number of participants, study settings, age, gender, country, the type of intervention, specific intervention. Similarly, what are the outcomes that are covered by the primary study? Similarly, what are the results that are covered? What is the sample size? What is the missing participants? All those need to be extracted uh, for every study that you include as part of your systematic review and meta-analysis. You can also do this extraction using RevMan. You can also do this extraction using Excel sheets. We'll share the link of everything in the group. Don't worry about it, inshallah. Um, so what are the tools that are there? Basically, what I've found is you can develop a Google form as well. You can go develop Google Forms. I will not explain how Google Forms are developed. You can literally just look up YouTube videos, easily found how to develop a Google Forms. You can create a Google form that has all of these key variables, and you can give it to your research team, and they can fill out the Google form on their laptop for individual articles that you include. You can also do it directly in a spreadsheet in Excel or in Google. You can create a grid pattern and you can you can include it in the Excel sheet. Data extraction can be done in the Excel sheet. You can also use a software called as Covidence. Covidence is not free, otherwise I would have shown it to you here. Check out what is Covidence. And also you can do it in RevMan. What I will recommend is use Google Forms. Google Forms are very easy. For RevMan, because now we have RevMan Web available. We will give you guys the RevMan software, but now the standard is RevMan Web. So I would say rather for RevMan Web, that would be a paid subscription to have a long-term account, because every month, at the end of every month, they will take down your review from RevMan Web. So you just use RevMan for analysis. And we will also train you on how to use RevMan just for analysis. For data extraction, what I would recommend is use Google Forms. Build your Google Forms using this, the Cochrane handbook, basically this checklist, this very small checklist, these items. And that's all about day one. We will do tomorrow, we'll start off with risk of bias. We will look at Cochrane reviews, we'll compare them with regular reviews. We will then look at qualitative analysis of systematic reviews. And the main, I would like to spend 1 hour on Rayyan tomorrow. So, because that's a hands-on. Today we did hands-on a search strategy. All of you have to go back and do a hands-on or search strategy. And then day three, we delve deeply into meta-analysis, heterogeneity, effect sizes, different analysis model. And then day four is all hands-on. Day four, nothing theoretical, everything hands-on. So this is how we'll cover all these days. So with that, I'll just stop here. I'll share the presentation that I have with me. Before I do every presentation every day, I add certain slides into it. So I will, this is the presentation that I'll share for today. But later on day four, I will share the comprehensive presentation with you guys as well. So you don't have to worry about it. You'll have everything that we cover here in the form of a PDF presentation. You'll have all of the links, no problem. Okay. Like I said, the purpose of us doing this workshop is not to generate revenue out of the workshop. We need more researchers. We don't have enough people doing meta-analysis. And we at Nazish Masood Research Center have a lot of load of meta-analysis. We want to have 100 researchers working for us. So we want to create an army of meta-analysis experts. So this is a step in that direction. You guys are that army. And all of you get to become part of meta-analysis groups. All of you publish in those meta-analysis, and all of you also earn a lot through those meta-analysis. So with that, I'll just stop here. And what I'll do is I'll look at the chat box and I will look at the comments that we saw. And that I mean, thank you, Dr. Hassan. Please share presentation. Yes. Please do share recording as well. Yes. And we would like to collaborate as you, yes, inshallah. All of you, we will offer this to all of you. It is very important for us that all of you become part of our meta-analysis team. Uh, Whoever wants to be part of it, and not a necessity. And Dr. Zishan is the point person. If all of you, if any one of you is interested, you can discuss with Dr. Zishan. Dr. Zishan can share a Google form with you as well. This will be after the end of the workshop. Okay, no, don't go to him today. After the end of the workshop, he'll share a Google form with you in which you can register as our meta-analysis collaborators and researchers. Similarly, I have one issue, whatever topic I finalize for meta-analysis, it seems that there is already, okay. So Hafza, what you can do for that is look up a meta-analysis topic and don't finalize the topic. Let me just show you what you can do. Okay, let me just share the screen here. Okay. I'm just going to PubMed, right? And in PubMed, what I will do is I will go to just PubMed, not in advance, just in PubMed. Okay, here. So observe what you can do is say I'm interested in myocardial infarction. Right, I come here, and then I see I only go here, meta-analysis, and I remove the clinical trials, removing the clinical trials. Okay, I get 5,000 results. Out of those 5,000 results, I take this back to 2018, and I take this forward to 2010 to 2018, right? And these are the results that I get. So these are somewhere around 2,000 articles. Systematic review, and I am focused only on meta-analysis, so I know that whatever that I'm seeing is a meta-analysis, even though they might not have written a meta-analysis in the title. Systematic review of patients presented with suspected myocardial infarction. You take this topic and then you search it again. But this time around, you put the filter from 2018 to 2024. In case this topic is not repeated, you can repeat this topic. Simple as that. Now, there are 2,000 topics. Of those 2,000 articles, I'm 100% sure you will find 1,500 articles that you can easily replicate. Replication of systematic reviews that have been done 5 years previously and have not been repeated is very easy. People do that all the time, and all of this is completely ethical. All of this is actually a need of our clinicians, of our health system. Why? Because our health system continuously needs to upgrade itself, continuously needs to summarize and collate the new information. So you use the exact same search strategy that was previously done, you repeat it. And then what you'll do is you'll know that you will find new articles. As you find new articles, you basically do the analysis and you publish the analysis, and you can publish it in the same journal where the initial article was published. They will accept it. They're in fact more likely to accept it. So with that, I'll just stop. If there are any more questions, we have 6 minutes left. I made it a point that we need to conclude every day's proceedings in the time that we have. Inshallah, we'll be able to do that. And in 4 days, inshallah, you guys, and we did not include, we could have included 1,000 things in this workshop. I had a discussion previously with Dr. Zishan on this. We have only put things in this workshop that you need to carry out a meta analysis and become part of a research team, our research team, if you want. So with that being said, I'll just stop here. If there is any question, please go ahead and ask. Thank you, Dr. Samina, for your kind words. Very grateful. If there is any question, please go ahead and ask. Otherwise, we can conclude today's session. We will conclude it at 4. Yes, please. Yes, Shah, please go on. Dr. Shah.
Sir, how to write the results, especially if you are going to
Very
make
nice.
your protocol.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
I made one for Prospero.
So when you're doing a protocol, right? In a protocol, you only include 2 things. Number one, the introduction, and number two, the methodology. That's it. You don't have to write the results or the discussion in the protocol. A protocol, a proposal, a synopsis is all the same. All of them basically means what is your plan for your research. If any one of you is not added in the WhatsApp group, please message to Dr. Zishan. Dr. Zishan, can you please add all the people who are part of this into the WhatsApp group? Okay. So coming back to registration of your systematic review. Well, when you're registering your systematic review, go to Prospero. In case you think that you will complete the results and then you will go to register your systematic review protocol, the protocol will not accept, the Prospero will not accept, the database will not accept. Why? They only include protocols that have not been, that have not gone beyond the search strategy phase. You have to include the search strategy, nothing beyond it. Okay. Yes, Dr. Ginza, please go
Sir,
ahead.
it's not the result. I don't mean like it's not the proper results, but there is some section in which they're, I think, asking about like
Okay,
what are you supposed to do like in your results.
we what we can do
Yes.
is, what we can do is on day 4, we can go through Prospero as well. Just briefly, we can do that. Okay. Yes, Dr. Ginza.
Can I share something? Mm, I was doing a meta-analysis. We finalized the topic, and when we went for the registration in Prospero, we found that someone else was doing that topic. We
Yeah.
approached that researcher and we said that, "Are you still working on that, or you're not?" Then we got to know that the person, the researcher was doing that topic, and the topic was of his thesis. So this also, I came across this scenario. So just wanted to share this. I really got very disappointed. I worked really hard, but this is one of another picture. Just
Yes.
wanted to share my
No,
experience.
thank you so much. Actually, it is very important that before you embark on any protocol, any meta-analysis, first look up, has it been done previously or not? Then look up, has it been registered or not? In case it has been registered, now it's a race against time. You have to publish it before the other person. Sometimes I have seen people, even though they see that something has been registered somewhere, but they still go ahead and they do it, and they also publish it. I've seen that. So it depends on how you want to go ahead. Um, can protocol be stolen from Prospero? I mean, like, you're doing a systematic review protocol, you're giving it out to the whole world. If someone would like to steal it, they can, but then they will have to register it after you. As they register it after you and then you submit it for publication, you are more likely to get published rather than them. So they can steal the protocol, but it is difficult. So, don't worry about. I have in my life given away my presentations, given away whole manuscripts. And what I've seen is people are unable to replicate a lot of times. It requires a level of understanding to even replicate. And a lot of times when even if someone steals your protocol and they try to do the study, you can still do it better than them because you are the one who was the creator. And I'll tell you, the journals are very good at picking out details, and they can easily find out whether you have done it or not. So don't worry about कोई किसी का कोई चीज नहीं ले सकता. Don't worry about it. So with that being said, I hope this was helpful. We have 1 more minute left. If there are no more questions, we can conclude. We'll share today's recording with you in the form of a Google Drive. And you can go up to our website as well. You can look up the website, nazishmasoodresearchcenter.com, Dr. Zishan. There might be some issues with the website. We are still upgrading the website. At the same time, you can also reach out to us on our official email, which is Dr. Zishan. Can you Dr. Zishan has already shared it with the official email. My official email over there is Hassan@. So this is my official email. You guys are already in the WhatsApp group, so all of you already have my cell number. So with that being said, thank you so much. Take care, and we'll see you again. Allah Hafiz. Tomorrow, same time.
Allah Hafiz. Thank you so much.
Thank you.